All right. Uh, I hate to say this, but I really want to get everybody's definition. Taylani, one more time, just so I can hear it. Bear with me, I'm elderly.
Great. um, I said like the value of something is the work you put into it, and then gave like my definitions of how value ties into ethics, economics, and entrepreneurship.
Okay, I recall now, and it had to do with, yeah, as you say, the work that a person puts into it. So um, presumably what is valuable is that what you spend time on, working for, striving for, that sort of thing. And I think that's an important aspect of value as well. So thanks, Elizabeth, for that. And sorry to make you repeat it 3 times, but I got it now. Thank you. Alex, how about you?
Um, my idea of value was based on how much something or an idea is worth to like an individual. So like on the ethical side, it was like value like trust, for example. It is worth like a lot to people, and if they value trust, they'll like try to keep uh, they'll try to keep the trust in like a relationship or with other people. And then like on the economic side, it was just something becomes like valuable, and then there's a great demand for that thing.
Okay, that was a really nice preliminary definition, Alex, because you brought in worth. What is something worth to an individual? And also linking it to trust really opens it up and creates kind of a sticky surface for all sorts of ethical dimensions to your definition. So great, what I would call a springboard idea. So that really well done.
Thank you.
Taylani, how about you?
Imani just went.
Oh, okay, sorry. Didn't. Uh, Michaela. Michaela.
I think value can be something very important, and to me, it means that you hold an important role in someone's life, or vice versa. And you don't really see value anywhere, or actually are aware of it, in my opinion.
And I think what I picked up on in your definition, just for everyone's benefit, is linking it with persons. Some of the definitions sort of focused on things or services, sort of a more of an economic understanding of value, which is valid certainly. But I like the fact that you brought in the value of relationships and interconnectedness between person and people. So that was a very humanistic definition. So I really appreciate that. Thanks, Michaela. Anna Sophia?
Yeah. Um, I wrote that as a trait is usually something intangible. It's the worth or importance of something. So the worth can be measured like emotionally and physically. Value can be used to guide your moral compass. For example, I value honesty, and therefore I base many of my decisions on what I think is the truth. Um, Values are a person's principles and moral guidelines in addition to the benefit or monetary worth of an idea or object.
Wow, really good definition. And I like that that word intangible, to me, I can't quite remember what the definition of intangible means, but I have the feeling that it means it's difficult to quantify or measure, weigh. Uh, is that your
Yeah,
understanding of intangible as well?
like something not physical.
Okay, right. It's sort of, so if it can't see it, understand it, or it's difficult to measure or quantify. And so value then is something other than what is measurable. Is that a fair representation of what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Good. I think very important. Very important. All right. Let's see. We've got Leah at Red Cloud.
I just said ethical values is how you determine what's right and wrong. Your values or what you believe in help you make that decision.
Okay, another kind of a reference to right and wrong determination as indicated by or suggested by some code of conduct. Is that, am I putting words in your idea, or is that a fair representation? So the idea of a code of conduct of some sort.
Yeah.
Don't give ground unless you're convinced. Don't let me put words in your head. Or if those are not your ideas, then correct us. But another vote for kind of the idea of right and wrong. Help it. Some value means some way of determining what is a right path, what is a wrong path. Correct? Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Leah. Declan.
So I said value, like I define value as something that would like fall under my priorities and things that I live by every day. And then I'd also define value as something that carries a lot of weight, something that would have like a great impact on you or someone else if it were to either go really well or really bad. And then I also define value as wealth, because something like when I think of money, I think like value or like it's valuable. And that like a lot of the things you have in life you should treat with respect, because most of it does cost like hard-earned money that is valuable.
And what I think is important about that one is kind of moving away from that idea of intangible that Anna Sophia mentioned, getting into the idea of weight. I like the fact that you use the word weight, which conjures up in my mind, like a scale or that you could measure and quantify. And then you went another step further in that direction by linking it with wealth. The idea of value is reflected maybe in wealth. Fair statement?
Yeah, no,
fair characterization. Okay, good. And then Hillary, why don't you share with us your definition of value?
My definition was pretty similar to Anna Sophia's, both like the tangible and intangible values. So for more tangible stuff, I use an example of like a book or like
Hillary, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. All right. I thought you were off camera, but you're on camera. I'm sorry. Okay, there you are. All right, please continue.
I used the example of a book or a car for the intangible values and how that's not as disputed as someone's intangible values. I talked about how values can vary from person to person depending on their beliefs, experiences. So that was kind of the angle I took, and how people's values just kind of change with who they are, and that doesn't affect their validity.
Okay, great. Thanks, Hillary, and thanks everyone for sharing that. Now, what if we step back a little bit, are there any common threads in what you heard? Everybody shared what they wrote. Did you hear any common themes that sort of connected at least a couple of definitions or differences? Any common themes that anybody heard? Maybe not the best question. So let me back up and try another one. Maybe if we head over to Dave and Kate's book just for a second, and I excuse my informality, but Red Cloud students, we had our first synchronous meeting had an interview with our authors, or two of the authors. The Robert Lush author passed away last year, unfortunately, but Kate Johnson, who's an academic economist, and Dave Schmitz, who is a practicing philosopher here at the University of Arizona, and who are the authors of our text, just spoke with us for a few minutes, and I found it really beneficial. And I think that recording of that meeting is available in case anybody wants to see it who missed it at Red Cloud. And I've asked Dave and Kate if they would consider coming back maybe at the end of the semester. They're going to try and make that work. So you won't miss out, Red Cloud, on that opportunity. But let me just share my screen. I pulled up our reading here, and we can take a look at that. So what they talk about in their section on value, our values are what we aim at. I kind of like that idea too, and this is Dave's prose again. I really admire the gift of his writing. And to judge to be worth aiming at when we make choices. And then, and I won't go into this, but what is money? And then they've got this idea of objective value. One of the things that we heard in our discussion of our preliminary definitions is that idea of intangibility or difference. You know, so what one person values differs from what another person values. But the concept of objective value, if you recall, what Dave was talking about is, okay, so you have healthy choices and unhealthy choices, let's say, in your life. But the fact that vitamin C is good for you can be established as a fact. So you may choose, you know, to steer away from nutrition that is rich in vitamin C, let's say, and that's your choice and so on. But the fact of vitamin C being a healthy ingredient of nutrition remains. So, you know, to the extent, in other words, if we value health, vitamin C is going to play a role in there because of its fact of being healthy. The other facts that they talk about is in market value, and our definitions also hit on that. Like we talked about weight, wealth, what is of value, is of worth to a person. So, and the idea of standing by or standing up for what you believe is valuable. So another understanding of market value, and the Picasso painting was the discussion, is the fact of value in the marketplace. So in other words, Dave's example of, well, he thinks his house is worth $1 million. Well, that's kind of a claim, a factual claim, isn't it? And we could verify or refute that factual claim by putting it on a market. And if he's right, somebody's willing to pay that asking price, then there is a fact established. So, you know, and he said the common phrase is as a matter of fact. And so when we think about market value, we're also talking about the factual claim of different values on the same object. In this case, his house, a Picasso painting, or really anything, a cappuccino, a pen. So it's not that, I mean, I'm not denying that there are different levels of valuation, but we can establish facts in markets. It's not just whatever somebody thinks it is, right? In other words, and that's what money, I guess, is related to valuation, because that's one of the metrics by which we can measure the value that different people have. So just because different people have different valuations of a good or a service or something, or an intangible, doesn't mean that a factual claim can't be connected to that. Does that make sense, or do you want to challenge that or try and poke a hole in it? But do you follow that reasoning?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Well, let's see. I see it's the top of the hour. We've got just a few minutes left, and what I want to do is ask you over the weekend if you could do your magic with with what you did in terms of value, your preliminary definition of value, go back to our text, Ethics, Economics, and Entrepreneurship, and just take a look at what Dave and Kate have written about value one more time, even if you did read it. To just take a look at it again. It's very short, couple, 3 pages, and just think about it in terms of our discussion and what you wrote, because I'm going to ask you to add on to your definition. And then also, if you could look at what's coming up in terms of, the book calls it trade, I'm going to call it exchange. What's your preliminary definition? And there's another forum for this on the course website. What's your preliminary understanding of the idea of trade or exchange? We'll use those terms interchangeably for now. What does that mean to you? You don't have to base it on the text. Again, I really value your ideas. So start with your ideas, and kind of the sky's the limit. What comes to your mind when you hear the word trade, like international trade or interstate trade, and exchange, those concepts? And then just kind of a previews of coming attractions. Next Monday, the 23rd of October, when we get together again in this synchronous capacity, ideally, we would have the following materials: a bunch of Post-it notes, 2 by 2, 2 inch by 2 inch Post-it notes, a lot of them. Is that possible to get Post-it notes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Starman, is that doable?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, and then I see in the back there at Seattle Prep, you've got a nice wood cabinet, which conceals a whiteboard. Do we have something equivalent that we could stick our Post-it notes on, Mr. Starman, at Red Cloud? In the room? I mean, like, I see a white, is that a wall? That's a wall, right? And we can't draw on that wall, can we?
Yeah,
We can?
no, but I should be able to find like big Post-it, like tearaway presentation things.
Oh, okay, that we could stick our little Post-it notes on? Post-its within Post-its. Okay, that'll work.
Yeah,
That'll work. So, Mr. Smith and Mr. Starman, if you take a look at that plan, and just if we could reproduce those simple graphs, those 4 rounds for simple graphs, that will allow students to affix their Post-it notes to, then we're good to go. Cool. All right. Well, we've got just about a minute or so remaining, but I want to thank everyone, and it's good. I feel that now we can go to that next level that I wanted to go right at the get-go of our course, which is to pair up and to form partners. And again, everybody is going to work with everybody. I think I mentioned the martial arts background that I have, and one of the cool things in the dojo is that you get to work with everybody. So in jiu-jitsu class, for example, I'm still blessed with some strength, some considerable physical strength, which is utterly useless with a guy half my size who knows a lot more than me. But I learn every time we roll together. And so that's the idea in this class. Everybody is going to work with everybody else. So that you have to look forward to. Although we won't be doing jiu-jitsu, we'll be doing mental jiu-jitsu, if you will. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of the week. Thanks so much for coming, and all the best to our members of Red Cloud that are now right in the swing of things. So thanks again, Greg, so much. Ignore all my my panicky voicemail messages. You could delete all those. And thanks, Elizabeth, Taylani, Michaela, and Leah, and Elsa, and Alex, Anna Sophia, Declan, and Hillary, and Mr. Smith and Mr. Starman. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Take care.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Thanks.